Hey guys, and welcome to the Liam Senior Show, episode number 1. I feel like there's been a little bit too long between the show preview and the first episode, so apologies if you've been on tenterhooks on the edge of your seat waiting for the first show to drop. Apologies. Perhaps I was a bit too keen to get it out there, but the reason why I shared the show kind of preview and launched the all the followings, things like that, I think it's kind of about accountability. I felt that if I didn't start doing it right then, I would never do it. So that is why you got a show preview weeks before any content at all. But I assure you, I've got a number of guests lined up who are going to make great episodes and really interesting stories and really great to hang out with. We'll perhaps have a beer or two together or a coffee or whatever, depending on what time of the day it is. But yeah, there's plenty of people who I've got lined up or who have expressed an interest. So there'll be a number of shows coming really soon, but I wanted to use this opportunity just to, I guess, just to talk about myself. I did comment that on the preview that the show title was a little self-indulgent. Well, heads up, this entire episode is going to be extremely self-indulgent. I thought whilst there was no guests, it would be a good opportunity just to, I guess, kind of talk about what's got me to this point. Plenty of you who be listening will know me from one time or another in our lives, whether it was years ago from school or working together or however we met, but it may have been a long time since we spoke. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity just to kind of catch you guys up, so you know a little bit more about me or what my journey has been so far before you get stuck in with the Liam Senior Show and I start grilling all my guests and hanging out and talking about them. So episode number 1 should be titled self-indulgence or something along those lines. So I'm currently I'm in Middlesbrough. I've lived in Middlesbrough now for 9 years. Next year will be my 10th year, a decade in the smog, and I love it up here. I've been referred to by some notable smoggies as an honorary smoggy, so I'll take that. It's a real honour to be accepted by the tribe. But I love the borough. There's so much going on. It's a really big town, and there's been numerous sort of petitions and conversations about turning Middlesbrough into a city or getting city status. It doesn't have a cathedral, but I can see why that conversation's kind of come about, because it's coming from a town myself. Towns can feel quite small, quite boxed in or isolated, whereas this feels quite quite grand, and there's a lot happening all the time, which I love, and it's great to be able to be a part of that and to get involved with numerous things that have been happening in the area. I do love a parmo, for those who don't know or aren't familiar with the parmo, you've got a flattened chicken and scallop, chicken and breadcrumbs, bechamel sauce and cheese, and then any kind of topping like you would with a pizza. So they are amazing. They come in all shapes and sizes, from a dirty, horrible takeaway parmo to a lovely restaurant quality one that you can get and enjoy. But yeah, enough about parmos. But yeah, I love Middlesbrough, and yeah, I'm sure I'll be up here for the rest of my life. I've started a family up here now, so I have 2 children, Ava and Nate. Ava turns 3 this weekend, and Nate turned 1 in January. So really sort of rooted ourselves here, and yeah, I love bringing more smoggies into the world. Originally from Northwich, a small town in between Manchester and Chester. That's where I grew up. I lived in the same house my whole life, up until I was 23. I think about 23. So for the first 23 years of my life, I had the same bedroom. I had 2 bedrooms. Yeah, I went from one to the other. Anyway, that's boring. Yeah, I lived there my whole life up until that point, and didn't go to uni, didn't have halls, didn't do any of that. So when I moved up to the borough and moved in with my now wife Stevie, it was the first time I'd ever lived away from home, so it was really exciting. And yeah, I moved to a little village in North Yorkshire called Great Ayton. Everyone always talks about the ice creams you get there, but it's a lovely little picturesque Yorkshire village. It's great. But I now live further into Middlesbrough, part of the TS5 crew. Yeah, it's sort of just outside of Acklam. And yeah, I love it. I love Middlesbrough. There's a real sort of camaraderie. There's a real support kind of going on. If you ever want to do anything, then people want to see you succeed. So when it comes to things like podcasts or businesses, there's a great community of people that really want to see you succeed and really want to support you in achieving whatever it is you want to do. And I've not really felt that anywhere else in the country. Before I moved up here, I was working for a high street bank, and I would travel quite a lot for work. I used to be down in London. I was down in Southampton, Poole, Bournemouth, Coventry, Birmingham. And then I covered the whole of Teesside, Wearside, South Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, Scotland, Northern Ireland. So I got about a bit, but it was saw plenty of the country, and there's some amazing towns, cities, and places in the UK. But Borough is it's like no other, and it gets a really bad rep, which is unjust, because I think, Jeff Stelling had it right when he had a rant on. If you search for Jeff Stelling's rant on Sky Sports about Middlesbrough, it's when plenty of people, like the Daily Mail, isn't it? They'll write some story slagging off Middlesbrough, saying it's the worst place to live in the world, or it's this, it's that, it's got this, and yeah, it has its problems. It has its affluent areas, and it's areas that are less affluent. Or there's rougher areas, and there's like any place. But I think that's the same with any town, any city. You get the good, the bad, and the ugly, don't you? There's all walks of life, and it's no different up here. But it definitely doesn't deserve any to be even make the list of the worst places to live in the world, because it's brilliant. And I implore you to visit Teesside, whether it's Parmo in the Borough, or you go out for fish and chips in Saltburn on the coast, or you're only an hour away from Newcastle or less, an hour and a bit away from Leeds. It's a great place to be. So that's where I'm at now. But yeah, grew up in near Northwich, a little village called Davenham. Went to Davenham CV Primary School. Lived there for a long time. Always had ambitions to do something creative. I studied music and music production, film and media when I was growing up. But then, as one thing led to another, I ended up working for a bank, as I'm sure is the same story for a lot of people. But I learned a lot along the way, and that career was great. I met some amazing people, some people that I'm still fortunate enough to call friends, and don't see a lot of the gang as much as I would like, but it was a real kind of baptism of fire. I started when I was 21, putting on a suit that didn't quite fit right, and suddenly being thrown into the world of finance and business and corporate this, that, and the other, and it was a steep learning curve. I was always the guy that probably got a bit too drunk. I was definitely the guy who got too drunk at Christmas parties and made a tit out myself. But yeah, loads of friends along the way, loads of great experiences, built a great CV, which led me on to gain the opportunity, I guess, to go self-employed as a mortgage advisor. And one baptism of fire to another. Working in finance, as I'm sure you can appreciate, is it's a tough gig sometimes. But it was. I did that for how many years did I do that for? Probably about 3 and a bit years as a mortgage advisor. But it was during that time when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So I'm sure most of you know now that I do have I have MS. A lot of cognitive issues that come with that, brain fog and things like that. And brain fog, cognitive disadvantages don't pair well with the financial industry, and I started to struggle more and more. I went off to a rocky start with the whole self-employment thing, but ended up moving to a company locally here, Bespoke, who are amazing, and they are now the number one firm on the network. They have the number one advisor on the network in the firm, Brad. They've got sub kind of firms like Bespoke Health, things like that. They're taking over, and I learned so much. I made, again, so many friends and people that I'm still in touch with now, even though I'm not working directly under Bespoke or advising at all now. There's people that I still speak to regularly and see quite often, and I'm really fortunate enough to have been a part of Bespoke, and that Bespoke's been a part of my journey. Lee Flanagan, who I am almost certain will feature on the podcast at some point or another. He has a podcast of his own, Little Bricks podcast, or the Little Bricks, I'll say that again, the Little Bricks podcast. His mantra is little bricks build big castles, and he talks to a lot of business leaders and inspirational people on his show. I would recommend checking it out. if you're watching this on YouTube, you can watch this podcast on YouTube, or you can listen to it. I should probably said this at the start, shouldn't I? You can watch this on YouTube, or you can pick it up you should be able to pick it up wherever you normally pick up your podcasts. If it's not there, let me know and I'll try and sort that out. If you're on YouTube, I will link. I'll post a link to Lee's podcast as well for you to check out. But yeah, Lee took me under his wing, picked me up when I guess I was in a very difficult place. It didn't really work out with the first company when I went first self-employed. I wasn't right for them, they weren't right for me, and we parted ways. But at that point, I was really struggling mentally. There were changes happening to my body and my brain that I didn't fully understand, and I was really quite lost and quite emotional about what was happening. I didn't really understand. But Lee took me under his wing and picked me up and gave me some direction and some advice that has been incredible, and really got me through that time. And I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, the whole MS thing, it's ongoing. I have relapse and remitting MS, which basically there's two main types of MS. You've got progressive MS and relapsing remitting MS. In a nutshell, progressive MS is one that once diagnosed, or once you have symptoms, there's just gradual progression. There's gradual deterioration physically and mentally, and it just it can get it gets worse and worse and worse. Relapsing remitting MS, as the name suggests, is one where you have periods of relapse where things may happen. You may struggle to walk, or whatever. There's so many symptoms. It's crazy. But the idea is that they affect you, and then you'll have periods of remittance where you're not affected. But my suspicions of not having relapsing remitting MS is that all the symptoms I have never left. I've had all the relapse, but never the remittance. And from there are sort of subcategories of those. You've got secondary progressive, where everyone who has relapse and remitting eventually goes on to have secondary progressive, where it just turns into progressive MS. And then there's another one, I always forget the name, but it's like progressive relapse and remitting, something like that. I don't know. You have to Google it. Which is where it kind of shows a lot of traits of relapse and remitting MS, but is actually progressive, because I'm not getting you're not getting the remittance, which is what happened to me. So I first started to gather symptoms, I suppose, or collect symptoms of MS. I'm not exactly sure when it was. Thinking back, probably a lot earlier than I realised at the time, but the first sort of symptoms were I would wake up in the morning and my legs would just feel horrendous. I wouldn't really know. It felt like I'd run a marathon. They'd be tingly and I'd get pains and just really uncomfortable, and I'd be really tired. I'd struggle to get out of bed, a lot of fatigue. And from there, I noticed that my left hand had gone numb. I went to the doctors and was told I had carpal tunnel syndrome. Had a few tests and a few needles shoved and poked and to try and find out what it was. And yeah, I was told it was carpal tunnel. And also at the time I was playing ice hockey quite regularly, and I was going to the gym a few times a week. I was starting to struggle more and more with that physically and energy levels. And I noticed that when I was under stress like that, whether it was stress from work, stress from life, stress from exercise, or even hot bath, I'd get really impaired vision in my left eye, which was really concerning. I later learned that way back when they would diagnose MS by having a hot bath. If you became dizzy and unbalanced and lost your vision, then it was a huge sign that you had MS. Another one I was told recently as well, that so I noticed ages ago, if I sort of alternate between opening and closing one eye, there's a slight sort of difference in colour in my left and right eye. And I was listening to Dr. Walls, who does the Walls protocol. She is under the impression that her whole philosophy is that she's cured herself of MS through diet. There's a lot of skeptics that say this, that, and the other, but there's lots of hints and tips in the book which can help. Why was I talking about her? Memory, another issue with MS. Why was I talking about Dr. Walls? Vision, hot bath. I might have forgotten. Well, this is awkward. This might come up quite a lot in the podcast, but yeah. So one of the other issues, the cognitive issues, memory, short term in particular, is challenging. It's going to bug me what I was talking about. I'm sure it's to do with symptoms. Walls protocol. Anyway, so they do the hot bath test, all that. And so these symptoms I've still got. So if I have a hot bath or I do exercise, I lose my vision. If I'm under stress, cognitively, it gets worse, even though there's like a level of brain fog already. My hand is still numb. I get drop foot quite a bit, where I sort of, my left foot doesn't lift as much as it should when I'm walking, and I fall. I get balance issues. There's depression. So I've a family history of depression. Depression is also a symptom of MS, and also if you've got MS, you're quite likely to get depression from that, because hey, it's it's not the most cheerful conditions to be diagnosed with. So there's sort of a triple whammy there of depression. But I take medication for the pain in my legs. I get an electric shock in my leg roughly every 10 to 15 seconds, which isn't pleasant. But I take gabapentin. Started off on 100 milligrams and now on 2,100 milligrams, and I take duloxetine, which is also a treatment for nerve pain and depression and anxiety. I take 60 milligrams of that, which does help. It makes things different, I would guess. I wouldn't say it doesn't necessarily make things better, because I still feel rubbish. I still feel tired, fatigued, still have brain fog, still have everything that I have, but it kind of maybe just takes the edge off a touch and allows me to try and live as normal a life as I can. Obviously having 2 young children and running a business, physically, mentally, very demanding, and living with MS on top of that is hugely difficult. And I don't necessarily talk about it to everyone else as much as I maybe could or should. It's something that I try to be as normal as possible. When with my friends, I don't, if we were catching up now, or even the fact we're talking now, listening, you're talking to me here, or you're sort of listening to me ramble, you wouldn't know. It's they always say not all disabilities are visible, and that is incredibly relevant to multiple sclerosis. So I have my disabled badge, which I use on bad days, and it's great for me, because then I've remembered where I've parked, because I know I'm in the disabled section. I don't have to walk as far, but I do sometimes feel a bit self-conscious that people are looking at me thinking, he's a fit young lad. What's he parking there for? Why has he got a badge? And because one of my biggest bugbears is people parking in bays, in disabled bays, without a badge. But I've got the badge, but I still feel like I'm being watched, or people are judging me, which isn't great, but it is what it is. I'll probably do other episodes and stints talking about multiple sclerosis, because I actually only really kind of learned about MS when I was a mortgage advisor, was a mortgage and protection advisor. So I sold life insurance, critical illness cover, and something that everyone should have, by the way. If you don't have life insurance and critical illness cover, please sort it out, because it's one of those things that often people try and retrospectively sort out when something's gone wrong and it's too late, where you need money to support your family if things, if the worst happens. So please do that. Once again, I've lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? So I can do other episodes and things like that talking about it, because it was only through doing questionnaires on health and people's people's critical illness policies that I was like, do you have this? Do you have this? Have you ever felt like this? And I was like, tick, tick, tick. I felt all those things. I feel those now. And then I did the dreaded Google diagnosis, which you probably shouldn't do, but everything pointed towards MS. The more research I did, the more it was obvious that I had MS. So I rang every day to the neurology department to try and jump on a cancellation for an MRI, which I was persistent enough to get relatively quickly compared to a lot of people. Some people, it can take a decade to be diagnosed with MS. I was diagnosed from when I was thinking, I think I've got MS, up until diagnosis was less than a year. Yeah, it was less than a year. So I feel really quite lucky that, it's probably 8 or 9 months. I want to do more on that. I'm probably going to get someone from the MS Society to come on the show and talk about it, because I don't think it's very well known. I didn't know what it was until I had symptoms of it. When you're an advisor, you highlight, when you talk about cover, you talk about cancer being the big one. Obviously 1 in 2 people get cancer, heart attacks, strokes, and MS. But I found that even myself and other advisors would be doing videos and talking about, you need to protect yourself from cancer, heart attacks, and stroke, and they would always miss MS off, which now is something that would really irritate me. But because it's not very well known, people don't really think about it. It affects over 100,000 people in the UK. It's more prevalent in women than men. And there's a lot of links to vitamin D. So I take 4,000 international units of vitamin D a day. The closer you live to the equator, the less likely you are to be diagnosed with MS. The more north and dark you live, No, that's not a sentence. The further north you are and the more dark of a environment or cold and gloomy place you live, then the chances of having MS are greater. I think there's nearly 1 million people living with MS that were diagnosed in the US. So yeah, I'm going to talk about that on the show. It's not going to be an MS channel. So please don't be listening to this thinking, I don't want to listen to Liam harp on about his MS all the time. Well, you should, for one, but I won't be, it won't become a huge feature of every episode. I'll probably do, like I said, I want to do an episode with someone from the MS Society. So yeah, that'd be great to perhaps get someone who knows so much about it to explain it to people in more detail and perhaps raise awareness. We'll perhaps do a bit of fundraising on that show as well, but we'll save that for another day. In fact, I'm saying I'm going to save it for another show. I've just been talking about it for ages, but we'll go into more detail and we'll get some experts in for that as well. From there, so from diagnosis and from being self-employed, I was realizing that I wanted to do something I'm really passionate about and decided to launch Salt Steel Brewing Company. If you're following this channel, then chances are you've already seen the brewing stuff that I do. So Salt Steel Brewing Company is a brewery that I've ran now since, I registered the business just towards the end of 2019, just before the pandemic, which wasn't great. It's put loads of hurdles along our way and loads of challenges and obstacles, but really enjoying it. Took a bit of a mental health break from it at the start of this year, which meant it's been a slow start getting back into it, but we're about to launch 2 new beers next week. In fact, the lager will be done. I say next week, hopefully, it'll probably be next week or so when this gets released. But yeah, new lager, there's a porter, and we've got 3 spirits, very much Borough themed after Borough football players. So we've got Gin Nino, which I have to give Stevie credit for coming up with. So Gin Nino, we have Rum Manelli instead of Ravanelli, and Vodka instead of Viduka. So we've got a rum, a gin, and a vodka coming really soon, and I'm really excited to share those with you. So in total, we'll have 3 beers, 3 spirits, there'll be more merchandise, so please check that out. But that's been great fun, and slowly but surely I'd kind of moved away from financial advice to running the brewery more over that time and over the pandemic and beyond. I don't think everything happens for a reason, but I certainly think some things happen for a reason, and I don't fully understand how this has all happened in terms of being diagnosed and my whole life changing and then starting a business that perhaps I wouldn't have had the balls to start otherwise. So yeah, there's been some good to come of it, which, the brewery is something that's been so much fun, and so many of you have got behind that as well and bought t-shirts, hoodies, and you've bought the beer. We had loads of issues with it, but you've still got behind it, so that really does mean a lot, and I'm very, very, very grateful for everyone who has shown any support. Like I said, whether it's beer or Mr. Chris Hobley with his with the little tumbler glasses that he keeps smashing and buying new ones. So keep smashing them, and I'll keep sending them out to you. Keep buying them. So there'll be more stuff like that, and we've got more merch and collaborations coming really soon. And again, there'll probably be an episode I'll do talking more in depth about the brewery and the journey that's come from there. I did a lot of the marketing myself for the brewery, including a lot of video, which has now led to another opportunity in a new business, which is Salt Steel Media Company. I work with and have networked with an amazing photographer, Dazmac extraordinaire, and he has kind of come on this journey with me. So I'm sat in our office here, this is sort of Salt Steel HQ, where I run the brewery and we run the media company from. Daz also has a photography studio next door. Great collaboration, lots of work we can do together, which is really exciting. So lots of people were asking me about the content that I created. We've used drones, everything's in 4K, there's gimbals, the editing's great, there's lots of license-free music. It was all very professional, and from that, businesses have approached me to do similar content for them. And that's something that I'm really going to be pushing with. So the brewery will still tick along. It's still fun. It's still something I want to do more of. But I feel that now Salt Steel Media is becoming my main focus in terms of a career and building a business and growing a brand. I feel that the overall Salt Steel brand is something that will continue to grow. Myself and Mr. Chris Marseille, who looks after it's his warehouse where I store all my products and services. Can't store your services, can you? Well, actually, we can. So I'm going to elaborate on that. So I store all the beer and all my merch and things there with Chris. And there's also all the gear that we have for our mobile bar. So Chris and I are co-directors of Salt Steel Events Limited, where we do a pop-up bar for events. We've got a couple of events coming up this year. We are supporting Katie Gibson's production, 27 Productions, 27 Productions production of Steel and Iron, which is a play / musical that Katie has written and is producing, and I think now is directing. We provided a bar for the initial kind of taster event, and we have been lucky enough to be invited back for the main production, where they're going to be, I think it's 5 nights, where we're going to be there serving beer and making friends and having fun, which is going to be great. We've also got a second networking event with Durata, who are a local cable management company in Middlesbrough, and we did a networking event for them last year, and they're doing another one this year, and we're going to be a part of that again. So really exciting. Chris and I will be there serving beer. So yeah, we've gone from dipping my toe in self-employment, not really working out, to now being director of 3 companies, all under the Salt Steel umbrella: Salt Steel Brewing Company, Salt Steel Events Limited, and now Salt Steel Media Company. I'm loving it. I'm loving the work that I do. I love coming into the office and being creative, whether it's prattling about on YouTube, doing podcasts, or making great content for other businesses, sorting amazing beer out, going to the brewery and brewing. It's something I'm really enjoying, and it's almost this sort of silver lining, if that's the right expression, or no rainbow without rain kind of thing. It's something that is good, that's come out of my whole change in life and circumstances through going self-employed and then being diagnosed with MS. It's also great because most weeks I'm typically working 3, sometimes 4 days a week, and then I'm looking after my children those other day or 2 in the week, which is great. I feel like I have spent more time with my children than other people are fortunate enough to spend that time with them. Again, structurally that sentence does not make sense. I feel very fortunate enough to I've spent so much time with my children, particularly in their early years. I appreciate that not all dads in particular get to do that. Typically, in most situations, the mother would, I don't know, how else would I say that in a non-creepy weird way? Those that grow the child in their stomach for 9 months typically tend to take the maternity leave. Paternity leave is usually 2 weeks, but I took a little bit longer than that, and then have been able to spend more time with them as weeks go by. So very fortunate, very lucky to be able to do that. I'm very grateful and humbled. So yeah, like I said, MS is horrible and awful. I feel very lucky that some good has come out of the situation, because I think without the diagnosis, without the whole change in circumstances, I wouldn't be sat here talking to you in this medium now. I'd be doing a job somewhere probably, which would be great, but not as perhaps exciting for me as this is. So there's a lot of good stuff to come. I'm going to be having loads of guests on for the podcast, and I'll be doing more of these, hopefully more regularly. I've said I'm going to bully Daz onto an episode as well, but he's been reluctant so far, but I'm going to get you, Daz. So yeah, we'll do some more YouTube content, more studio tours. The studio's looking great now. We've made it more of a home and a great place to work and be creative. I've had some interest from some celebrity guests as well. You'd be very pleased to learn, and those that I believe to be celebrities in their own right as well. My friends and family who are celebrities to me as well. So there's going to be some great guests on. So please do follow the podcast wherever you follow, subscribe, whatever it might be. The YouTube channel, please do hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment, because that really does help YouTube see that it's something it should be sharing with more people. So if you could like, subscribe, and leave me a little comment with what you thought of the show, any feedback, anything you'd like to see. We can do daft challenges, we can do topics. If you want me to talk about X, Y, and Z, then I will do. So hopefully I'm going to blend this in properly, because the camera stopped recording then for the YouTube listeners. So apologies, I'll have to sort that out. I'm going to have to do another clap as well. That'll be edited out though. I guess this is something that's going to be quite cathartic for me, in that it's almost like a one-way therapy, where there's going to be more challenges, trials and tribulations, I'm sure, across my life, as everyone does. Everyone has things that they have to deal with, and problems and challenges they have to overcome. Doing that with MS is hugely difficult. So I'm sure I will. There'll be plenty of episodes where I'll just come on for a bit of a moan and get it off my chest. Probably not the best content for a podcast, is it? to just moan. Enjoy those episodes if you're driving to work and I'm just moaning about my life. But hopefully there won't be too much of that. But loads of great guests and loads of fun. If you want to come on the show, obviously get in touch with me. If you've got my number, just drop me a message, or drop me an Instagram, or slide into the old DMs. And yeah, we've got plenty of microphones, plenty of space on this couch, plenty of cameras. So yeah, come be on the show and have some fun with me, because I think you're going to really enjoy it. I know I'm definitely going to really enjoy it. So thank you for checking out this episode. This has been episode number 1. Me just talking about myself and being very narcissistic and self-indulgent, but I thought it'd be a good show to start with, just to give you a recap on my life up to now. And from here now, we can go on together forward to, that sounds like a very political speech, doesn't it? We will go on forward and we will fight on the beaches, but no, we will, we'll go on this journey together, and hopefully we will have some great shows to share. So stick around, and thank you for checking out this show, and I'll see you soon.